Now, when you kind of look on your life, how would you describe it? What would be the word that you would use to describe your life story?
Probably incredible. I would have been voted the least likely person to ever become a successful scientist in high school.
Well, why is that?
Well, because I almost flunked out of high school.
There's hope. There's hope for everyone.
No, I think my book actually in the story gives hope to a lot of parents about their kids. Mm-hmm. I had what might be described as a learning disability, aphantasia, where I don't see any pictures at all if I close my eyes. So everything I learn is conceptual. So rote memorization is a difficult task, and our education system is built on that. So I just rebelled against that. I took part in sports. I built boats, had lots of girlfriends, had a lot of fun, but almost flunked out. I got a D- instead of an F in a government class because I wrote a paper knowing the instructor. This was back when Barry Goldwater was running for president.
Okay, this is a while back.
Yes, so 1964.
When was that? 64, yeah.
And even though I didn't believe it, I wrote a paper of why Goldwater should be president. And so I got a D- instead of an F in the class. So otherwise, I wouldn't have graduated high school.
What if you'd picked the other candidate?
Yeah. I would have flunked for sure.
So that would have been against Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I moved to Southern California to take up a surfing career. Mm-hmm. I was offered a swimming scholarship to Arizona State.
Really?
But, I didn't want to just depend on swimming, 5 hours a day for the next 4 years. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for college. So I moved down here to Newport Beach and took up surfing, body surfing at the Wedge. And the only drawback was I got drafted off the beach. I say I got drafted off my surfboard here because 1965.
So this is when you were living in Newport, and
Yeah.
you were paying exorbitant rent, right?
Yeah,
like $100 a month.
$100 a month. It was amazing. Couldn't even do that a day now, probably. So it's getting drafted was probably a changing point in my life. It ended up being a good thing. I'm one of the few people that came out of a Vietnam experience with a real positive attitude and positive outcome, where it was in part because of my job. I was a corpsman, so my job was saving lives. But for quite a while, I was a doctor for a orphanage in a Vietnamese village. I found it just incredibly rewarding to do. I was doing major surgery. I turned 21 in Vietnam, but in the military, you can do whatever your skill set allows you to do and what authority doctors give you. I was a very, very quick learner. At 19, Balboa Hospital, I was teaching interns and residents how to do spinal taps and liver biopsies.
Wow.
Because there's no malpractice for medicine in the military. So I had great teachers, physicians I worked with. And so I just learned so much. I probably, people say that I experienced more practice of medicine 1 year in Vietnam than most trauma surgeons experience in their lives. Not something I would care to repeat.
Yeah.
But you learn what's important in life, and you learn what keeps people alive, and part of it is their mental attitude. Some people give up and die. Some want to live and overcome amazing deficiencies in what's left of their body. So it was, but I came out of it wanting to become a physician and practice third world medicine. Mm-hmm. I had to start at a community college in Northern California because I was such a poor student. I couldn't get into the university, but we have such a fantastic system in this state. If you take transfer classes at a community college and you get a B average or better, UC has to take you as a transfer student.
Something isn't right. The ease of modern digital communication comes with costs. What are these colossal technology companies doing with our words, with our energy, and with our very beings. Can you imagine an event horizon where they use against us what we unknowingly gave? Orion emerges as an end-to-end quantum secure messenger that places the freedom of expression back where it belongs, with the people. More than a platform, it's a movement to reclaim your voice and freedom, a movement of people with profound ideas and a deep desire to help the human race. Let's get back to communicating meaningfully in our lives. It's time to rise above the surveillance, the shadow bans, and the censorship. It's time to free our voices. In a time when free speech and assembly are absolutely necessary, Orion stands tall, ensuring that you can free your voice.
And so it's fantastic. It's a way for people to afford the first 2 years of college for a tiny fraction of going to a university. And my education was as good or better than people get the first 2 years at a major campus. But when I transferred to San Diego, I was introduced to high-end science for the first time. I'd never experienced it before, didn't even know it really existed. And I was just fascinated by it. I made a major discovery as an undergraduate, published my first research paper, and just, was captured. And so...
What was that regarding?
Well, I've always been an adrenaline junkie, so I was studying adrenaline. And there was a big debate of whether adrenaline worked on the outside or the inside of cells. And I attached adrenaline chemically to tiny glass beads so they couldn't enter the cell, and proved that it worked on the outside of the cell. So it was a very innovative approach and got a lot of attention for me. So I have the shortest PhD on record for the UC system, and I went immediately into a medical school professor position. So I never did a postdoc or anything else. So
wow,
I kind of made up for lost time. I think because
that discovery
of the Vietnam
was so
experience.
novel. Also, it reminds me. I used to live in Australia, and I worked in the cardiology field, and I used to be a cardiac tech for a while. And when we would go in and implant an implantable cardio defibrillator, I would have to be the one who pushed the buttons. In Australia, you could do this.
Yeah.
I pushed the induced ventricular tachycardia and induced ventricular fibrillation so that you'd actually induce a heart attack so we could test to see if the implant was working, which is kind of terrifying for the patients. Imagine they're like, okay, just lay down. Usually some old lady or some older gentleman. And you're like, okay, we're going to just do something here to
We're going
this.
to turn off your heart for a
We're going
minute.
to turn off your heart for a moment. It'll be fine, really. And I used to do that. And I would go into all the open heart surgeries. And one of the things I noticed about the system, which I think is far superior, candidly, to our system here in the United States, is that at a much younger age, because they have tort reform already in place, they have limits on how much you can basically sue for. At a much younger age, first of all, you go straight into medical school. You don't do your undergraduate, so 4 years is saved.
And it's usually a 6-year straight through
That's
program.
a 6-year straight through program. And so they have people that are at the end of their med school that are actually doing surgeries. Whereas you're probably at least another 4 to 6 years in the U.S. system before you could actually do that. And I think it increases dramatically the amount of debt for doctors going into the practice of medicine. And largely it's related to the lack of tort reform.
Well, and as military medicine shows, and now physicians' assistants, probably 98% of medicine can be practiced by highly skilled technicians. And so in Vietnam, I would do independent surgery because they trusted me that if I saw something unusual, I'd go get help. But almost everything that I found was unusual. They didn't know what it was either. And so it's based on a trust and a skill set system, not based on how many years you were in college or what your degrees were. It's like, can you do this and do it extremely well? And because I could work extremely well with my hands, I was able to do extraordinary things. But so were thousands and thousands of others. The Special Forces medics, the SEAL medics. I mean, they're truly extraordinary individuals.
They have so much experience, real life field
Yes.
experience. It's not didactic.
Right.
I think we spend so much time on the didactic now. So